We are here once again with ReAna and so excited to chat with you a little bit more. We just heard about Callan's birth story, and wow, if you haven't had a chance to, if you have not had a chance to listen to it, I would highly recommend it. It is so touching, and I cannot believe all that you went through, all that Callan went through, so that you guys could finally meet him. That was quite the journey. It seemed like so. ReAna,
Yeah.
thank you again for coming on and being with us today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. So appreciate it.
Yeah, yes. Anytime we can get together, I think it's always a good excuse, so.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so give us a little bit of context. When was Callan's birthday, or when was he born? About how long ago? And, how did he pass away?
Okay, so Callan is my firstborn. He was born February 15th, 2021,
Mhm.
at 6:34 p.m. in the evening. I was 37 weeks pregnant on the dot. I found out that he passed away on February 14th, 2021. When I was 20 weeks pregnant with him, he was diagnosed with congenital diaphragmatic hernia,
Mhm.
which is basically where there's a hole in the diaphragm and the abdominal muscles migrate up through that hole and into your chest. And that's where they develop and they displace the heart and the lungs.
Yeah.
So he had CDH, and we were living in Washington State at the time, but we decided after a little bit of research that we wanted to go out to Florida.
Yeah.
Uh, it was quite the journey.
It really was.
Yeah, and, we went to Johns Hopkins All Children's, and, yeah, I had Callan on February 15th, just my beautiful baby boy
Yeah. With red hair.
with red hair.
I just think that is so cool because, like, I love your red hair and your husband's a redhead, right, too? Like, I just
Yeah.
think it's
Well,
I think that's so great.
mine is fake.
Oh,
I have to be honest.
I wouldn't know it. You should have said, "Oh, yeah, totally."
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know, it feels disingenuous. Just feel like it's not real.
Regardless, it's so beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, well, I wanted to chat with you, because we like to have these advice episodes just to see how the grief has looked since then. I mean, he was born mid-pandemic. One of the things I realized that I forgot to ask you about in your birth episode of Callan is that, you talked about this, like, beautiful peace that you felt in his room, and I mean, that is, like, such a special time after the birth that is, like, so quiet, right? Like, they talk about the quietness, but sometimes it's the quiet that is, like, so unnerving too, right? Because you expect your baby to cry, but you described it so differently, that it was so, so peaceful, like, so almost sacred, the way you described it. Can you tell me a little bit about that feeling and, like, what made it so different? Like, what
Well, first, I think I have to attribute it to, like, I believe 1000% that my son was there.
Mhm.
I believe that he was there and, he was trying to show his support for us. So I think that's kind of part of it. But I just remember there was this piece that I didn't want to disturb. I mean, and on any day, and this is not to shame anybody, like if you're experiencing stillbirth and maybe you're listening to this episode or know someone who is going to, like, do whatever gets you through the day. you
Yeah.
know? Like,
Yeah.
honestly, that is your day to be upset. That is your day to, like, cry, scream, yell, whatever you need to do what gets you through the day. This is just what helped me.
Mhm.
I found that honestly, I found that it was just in kindness, you know, like treating my husband with kindness, treating the hospital staff with kindness. Like, to me, it was really important. I felt like everyone had this expectation of me that maybe I would be this, like, this kind of cranky, mom in
Yeah.
labor,
Yeah.
and I didn't want that.
Mhm.
I wanted the complete opposite. I wanted our room to be a place where people could come and feel peace, maybe feel a little bit of a reprieve
Yeah.
from the world. I knew I needed that.
Right.
So it's
Might as well set up the environment so that I mean, well, and Callan, I think, like you said, set the tone. If you like I said, go listen to the birth episode because she talks about specifically a really spiritual experience that she had with her son
yeah.
and, yeah, how he set the tone, I think, right?
Yeah. Yeah. He just I felt like he was there. And I knew that I was actually just thinking about this last night. I knew that I wanted to be close to my son more than anybody in the world.
Mhm.
I wanted to be close to Callan. And I also knew that even though I wasn't exactly happy with him at the moment, there was if there was any point when I needed God, it was that day, you know? So I was going to do everything in my power to keep them both as close to me as humanly possible.
Yeah.
And so just and it was simple. It was, having loving conversations with my husband and just saying like, "Hey, I love you and I know this has got to be like horribly difficult for you too. How are you doing? Like, what do you need? What can I do for you?" Like, I know I'm kind of chained up to this machine right now, but what
Yeah.
like
What do you need? Yeah.
what do you need? And like just thanking him. Like, I feel like, honestly, I couldn't have done this with anyone else. Like, just saying
Mm.
thank you to my husband. And I gotta hand it to my husband. He was such a trooper. Literally anytime I moved, he was there.
Good job. Good
Good
job.
job, Kipper.
Yeah.
And just saying thank you to him. And when the hospital staff would come in and check on me, just thanking them and saying, "Hey, I know today might be a tough day. I hope things are going well for you." Or like anytime they did something, like whether it was adjusting my pitocin or just checking my position, like if I was in pain, because there were, even though I had an epidural, like certain positions,
Yeah.
it only covers so much. Just communicating that calmly, and then when the problem gets fixed, being like, honestly, just gratitude was a huge thing. And I'm not gonna say that it made the pain go away because it didn't. That pain was there and certainly took time to feel it, but it did help to at least create a safe atmosphere.
That's
Um,
cool. 'Cause,
yeah.
yeah, it is so easy to just kinda come in and, like, internally focus and kinda have a woe is me. Definitely. Like you said,
Do whatever gets you through the day.
do whatever gets through you and, like, yeah, it is an extremely trying situation for your spirit and for your morale and, but to have a little bit of gratitude seems to have set the tone for your room. Like, that's kind of a really, that was kind of cool that you tried to do that.
It felt good. It was like I felt like there wasn't a whole lot that I could control,
Yeah.
you know? Like, obviously, the one thing that I wanted, I lost control over.
Mhm.
I had no control over the fact that my son was gone.
Yeah.
But I did feel like I had control over how I responded to it,
Mhm.
And that's like, I really want to put this out there. Like, your feelings are valid.
Yes.
Like, if you're feeling crappy
Yeah.
and, like, just emotionally, like, tapped out or numb, whatever it is, that is valid.
Mhm.
Feel it,
Mhm.
feel my one of the therapists that I follow online, feel, deal, heal, like, own that. It's okay.
Mhm.
Whatever you're feeling is totally normal for the situation. Even if you're feeling, like, completely numb, that's just your brain protecting you from this traumatic experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, your emotions matter, they take space, and they need to take space or they're going to make space.
Mhm.
But how you respond to your emotions and what you do really sets the tone for you, it sets the tone for everyone in the room.
Yeah.
And in my case, I just felt like responding with gratitude. I just truly felt like I was gonna be closer to God and closer to Callan.
Mhm.
And like that was gonna pull me through.
Yeah. That's beautiful. And some of the other things that you did to make memories with Callan, what were some of those things? Did you guys were you able to get like handprints or molds made and
Yeah.
get any pictures taken, that type of thing?
Yeah. So we had a picture taken of him and we took some pictures with my husband's phone. And we had handprints.
Oh, good.
They gave us like clothes that we could, like a little hat that we could take home.
Yeah.
And so we did that, but mostly we just spent the time memorizing him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just trying to soak in everything about him.
Mhm.
And we didn't do this in the moment, but he's our baby shark. And so I later on in the week, because we were in Florida, we had to wait for a little bit before we could leave.
Yeah.
But we went to these little outlets,
Uh-huh.
and I remember we were walking around. And we were still so sad and just trying to do whatever we could
Mhm.
to enjoy ourselves while we were there. And I wanted a shark tooth,
Mhm.
that I could wear. Um, but I was kind of thinking I'd get an actual shark tooth.
Yeah.
And so I remember like walking up to this jewelry store and being like, okay, what would normal people do if they were here? If they hadn't just gone through this like experience, what would they do? They'd probably go into this jewelry shop. And so we went in there and I wasn't expecting to find
Mhm.
anything. Like I really wasn't. But we like I remember just asking, because do you guys happen to have any shark teeth? And, like, fully expecting them to be like,
No.
"No,
We're a jewelry shop.
we're a jewelry shop, and who wears shark teeth anyways?" You know what I mean? Um, and they're like, "Yeah, actually, we have this piece, and we walked over it, and immediately it was just like I saw it before they even, like, handed it to
Yeah.
me, and I just felt like Callan had picked that out.
Yeah.
And I started crying, and my husband's looking at me, and he's like, "This the one?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"This is it." And look, actually, the person who checked us out, like, she had just lost her baby herself.
Oh,
So it was another one of those, like,
yeah.
"Let's get
That
our moms together"
yeah.
moment.
Yeah, seriously. Like, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Oh, that is that's yeah, it is. Isn't it so surprising when you meet somebody, you're like, "Oh, you've been through this awful thing too?" Yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah. So for those who are listening on the podcast, ReAna has a silver necklace that has it's like a baby shark size tooth, right?
Mhm.
And it's cast in silver, it looks like to me.
Yeah, I think it's just, I don't think it's an actual, like, tooth, I
Y
think it's just
just the shape of a tooth, but
yeah.
it's really pretty.
Thanks. I wear it every day.
Yeah. I
Mm,
love that
so
you call it your baby shark tooth, like, I keep thinking of baby shark doo doo doo. I was like, "Oh, no, 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 sorry, guys."
Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. I love that you guys sat and just, like, tried to memorize him as best as you could. I think that is so sweet and just time to time to be together as a family. I think that's really so cool.
Yeah. It was pretty great. I mean, very difficult situation, but
Yes, of course, for sure. And it has been, so it's been 2 years since, Callan was born. What's some advice that you would give to another lost mom that might be going through this that yeah, what would be some advice?
well, first off, I would just want to say, I know it's hard to hear this now, but we see you and you are not alone and it's not your fault. I think those are the things that are the hardest to hear as a lost mom. They're the things that I wish I'd held on to a little harder
Mhm.
immediately in the year following the death of my son, and sometimes still do. But it's not your fault, and you're not alone. No one carries that loss more heavily or more poignantly than mom. And totally, it is normal to feel that heaviness. And it's normal to feel like it was your fault, but it's not. Okay. Don't let you will eat yourself alive thinking that.
Yeah. Yeah.
um so that is like the very first thing that I want to say. I would say therapy helps. It helps you to deal with the internal feelings that you're having that maybe you don't feel safe expressing to even your spouse
Mhm.
or your partner. But like I said earlier, your emotions, if you don't make space for them and you don't feel them and deal with them, they're going to make space.
Yep. And they're gonna overflow somewhere else that you don't want them to overflow, and it's not pretty sometimes.
Exactly. But the one thing that I really wanted to hit on is be patient with yourself and be patient with other people.
Mhm.
People are going to say things.
Yes.
You know, in our faith, we hear a lot of things like families are forever, and we will see them again. And all these things, they're true. And, when you can think them yourself, they're great. But when it's other people saying them, sometimes it feels kind of, what's the word? Tawdry? Is that the
Um, uh, yeah, tawdry or it feels flippant to me. You're
Yeah.
just like, "You just brushed off my child."
Yeah.
Like, I realize that. Yeah, it just is like, "No, stop." Yeah. Y
Families are forever.
yeah.
Like
"You'll be fine." No, it's it kinda makes me mad too, actually. Whenever people say that to me, I was like, "I know, but I'm gonna have to get." It's like, "I know families are forever, but I'm gonna have to come to that conclusion in my heart by myself, so you don't need to bring it up."
Yeah. Yeah, it's like that's if I say it, it's okay. If you say it, it's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, um, but, like, I found that a lot of the time people are saying things like that because they don't know what else to say. It's kind of like, you know, I wanna say it's okay for your pain to be the biggest thing in the room, and that is totally fine. Sometimes people don't know how to handle that, though,
Mhm.
and the natural, like, human instinct is to it's like, "Oh, this is too intense for me. I have to have some kind of escape 'cause I don't know how to handle
Yeah.
this." So that's when people say something like that, and it's not it's not intentional. You can set a boundary and, you can still find ways to hold space. But just when you can, try and be patient because I know this for me at least, I drove myself crazy, like thinking of all the different ways that I could get hurt. And it was just so
Mm,
much easier. Like,
interesting.
yeah, it was so much easier to just like accept, like, oh, this wasn't said
Yeah.
on purpose.
Or maliciously. Like, most people are well-intentioned, well-meaning, and they're just awkward, right? Like, they're
Yeah.
just awkward. Like, when you said, "What do normal people do?" If I hadn't just experienced this and so, yeah, like, people just don't know what to do. It's not their normal to deal with it. Yeah, we've had a lot of people say awkward things to us too, so,
Yeah.
um, are there anything are there any other things that you would, maybe recommend staying away from in regards to phrases or other things that are they just don't maybe land correct or right to a lost mom?
I would say, oh, this is a big one. So I got pregnant with my daughter about 8 months after I
Mhm.
lost Callan. And people ask me all the time, "Is she your first?" And I'm like, "No, she's my second." And, it's kind of like this awkward moment. I try not to bring it up a whole lot unless I'm asked. But people are like, "Oh, well, it's so great that you have hope," which is true.
Yes. Yeah.
But, it's like I can't think exactly of how they phrase it, but it almost makes it sound like hope is a consolation prize or that, like,
Mhm.
you know, hope is now taking the place of Callan. And so, like, my favorite thing to say is, and I say this proudly because I love my children, and I'm like, hope is not a replacement baby,
Yep.
and Callan cannot be replaced.
Yes. Oh, I love that so much. Yeah,
Yeah.
it totally is, like, I bristle a little at the rainbow baby term only because I'm
Yeah.
like, "You know what?" Like, it makes Brannon, my son, who was stillborn, seem like he was the problem. Does that make sense? And then Felix is, "Yay!" Not the consolation prize, but, like, he's the winner, and it just so that's why I'm like, "Oh, I like that." He's not getting replaced, he's not yeah, I that is beautiful. I love
Yeah.
that.
Like, they're two separate beings. They're both as much of a part of our family as the
Mhm.
other,
Mhm.
just maybe in different capacities,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know exactly what that would be phrased like, but maybe just try and be aware
Yes.
that, our babies are still a part of our family,
Yeah.
you know?
Mhm. And they're always with us, like, always with us.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
What about some things that people maybe said or did that was really helpful?
I think sometimes, and I'm thinking back to other times that I've lost, like when I lost my mom. I talked about that in the
Mhm.
um, previous meeting. Sometimes people just need a space to vent. They
Mm.
just need a safe space where they can, talk for 20 minutes and then, like come up for air. You know what I mean? Sometimes you don't realize how deep in these things you are until you come up from them. So maybe just being like a safe space. Um I had a few people actually like make little um not memoirs, but I got a few mommy necklaces.
Mhm.
So like my sister-in-law um and my brother-in-law had this little amethyst cuz my son's birthstone is
Yeah,
amethyst.
uh-huh.
So they had a little amethyst like pendant made or picked one out for us. And one of my husband's close friends got us like a little heart.
Mhm.
My mom or my stepmom got us a little like necklace with Callan's name on it.
Mhm.
And then like my sister-in-law for Christmas that year, and we had a friend who's in like a CDH family friend.
Oh, mhm.
They made little uh little Christmas ornaments,
Oh, uh-huh.
you know? So like I have, and so did one of my very best friends, so those, I will say, and I hope they hear this, that those Christmas ornaments, they're the first ornaments we put on our tree every year.
That is great.
Yeah. And I would just say, like, I know it's hard to I know it's hard to know what to say. Like, and again, that force to, like, escape from a situation is strong,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? And I think especially because as mom, we do feel it so poignantly, it can be kinda scary for those who maybe haven't experienced it, you know what I mean? Sometimes that person is your spouse. And so,
Yeah.
I think it's important to, like, and this is specifically for spouses, share your memories and share your love of the children who you lost. You know,
Mhm.
I will say as a lost mom, I know for I know for me it was helpful when Kiffer would bring up something that he remembered about Callan, you know, or talk about, I know it's awkward sometimes, but like saying what Callan means to him,
Mhm.
it kind of reinforces this idea that, oh, I'm not alone in this. You know, it breaks the inner monologue of this is just me. This is just me. This is just me.
Yeah.
Like, no, share your memories.
Yeah. You have to, or else our memories are fallible too, and so you lose those sometimes, and so sharing is really important.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
cool. Yes, I would say if any dads are listening and have gone through this loss, I think it is very nice to hear a little bit about, yeah, about your kids, those lost babies that you had. And because that sometimes there's not as big of a connection because you weren't the one pregnant, I guess.
Yeah.
And so for whenever Lee has shared with me some of his concerns or some of the things that he remembered, yeah, it's so sweet. So sweet to hear him talk about our son Brandon.
Yeah. And I think it's important kind of going along that to remember that everyone grieves differently,
Mhm.
you know? I think as women, we tend to be more like we want to talk about these things.
Yes.
We want to share, not compare, but
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
share in each other's pain and like talk it out. And for the most part, I think men are really different, you know? And so it is really healing when we hear them share their stories
Mhm.
or when it doesn't have to be this long thing,
Yeah.
you know, but it can just be like, "Hey, I remembered this and this is kind of how I felt." Something simple just breaks that inner monologue,
Yeah.
you know?
Because we can get all up in our head, like, so bad. Like, I don't know about you, but there's been times where I'm like, yeah, that inner monologue can be super destructive
Yeah.
too, I guess. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's because that's the part of your brain that's telling you like it's your fault and I'm alone and, all of these things. If you can have a break in that and just be like, "Hey, I'm not alone
Mhm.
in this." And, "Oh, yeah, it wasn't just me on this day. You were there too."
Yes. You held our son and you cried together. Yeah. Yes, it
Yeah,
is nice to remember that you're kind of a lot of times you're doing it with somebody else that was very much part of it. Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Any other thoughts about, like, how have you supported your spouse? How have you supported Giffer through all of this yourself?
Um, well, I feel like I have so much to, like, improve upon.
We all do, right?
Yeah. I'm like,
Yeah.
I think honestly, there are a couple things this is kind of things that I would change. I feel like things are getting better now, but I think if I had grasped onto the idea that people grieve differently,
Mhm.
and just because, my husband's not talking about Callan all the time doesn't mean that he doesn't love Callan.
Mhm.
I think that would have been a lot more healthy in
Mm.
the long run. And we've gotten better at that, but I remember that was something that I really kind of struggled with, especially the first 6 months or so. And I think it's important to remember I was thinking about this too. It's really easy to get caught up in your emotions and of course, I need to say this again, validate, validate, validate. You know what I mean? Validate yourself and validate your spouse. But whenever you're having a moment, and I've had plenty, your spouse is seeing that too. And even though they're not like necessarily saying something, they're experiencing emotions about that.
Mhm. Mhm.
So just being patient, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Being patient and understanding with your spouse. And I think what I've tried to do, and I'm better about this now that I'm a little further removed from the situation, is just when wants to talk about it, when he needs to talk about it,
Mhm.
I'm here and I'm a safe space and I'm not judging about that. And every once in a while, I kind of just like, I ask him, like, "Hey, how are you doing with this? Are you doing okay?"
Mhm.
You know? And most of the time, he's like, "Yeah, I'm all right." He's like, sometimes I think it just hits him a little
Yeah.
differently. It might, whereas for me, I carry it around a little bit more. For him, it might be like just a certain event reminds him
Yeah.
a
And
little
that
bit.
kinda triggers some feelings. memories.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know it's hard. I also think of my husband a lot, and he is he's a deep feeler, but not much of a sometimes a sharer of things. But I definitely feel like our spouses, the guys in our lives that are carrying this around, feel deeply about their kids. They might not say anything about it, but they feel very deeply about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and I like to send Kipper, like, Father's Day cards from
Mm.
Callan, you know?
No.
Or,
Yeah.
like, I can't say what it is,
Oh, yeah.
but I got Kipper a Father's Day gift,
Mhm.
and Callan's on that Father's Day gift, and so is Hope and our fur babies. But, you know
Sounds awesome.
yeah, but it's like he's always included, and
Mhm.
I think it means something.
Yeah.
You know what I
Oh,
mean?
definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Brianna, this has been such a pleasure talking with you today and hearing about Callan and about your family. It has been such a good spirit in our house. Like it just feels so joyous, even though we're talking about a very, very sad topic sometimes, but it has felt very joyous in celebrating his life. So thank you so much for bringing that feeling into our home today.
Oh, and thank you.
Is there any last little bit of advice that you would like to share with our listeners and those who are watching? Anything that could help them, or anything you'd like to just even say about Callan? Because, like, I always think it's fun to talk about our kids.
Yeah. I would say as far, like, as last advice, really just driving in that point of make sure you validate yourself,
Mm,
and what you're feeling is normal, and it might be scary, but it's normal to feel it, and you need to feel it.
yeah.
I would also say I feel like for me, part of the reason why I came on is, for I went through a really big depression for like at least a year about this. Hard to quantify, but like, 2021 and 2022 were emotionally really, really difficult years for me. Even though like I spent most of 2022 pregnant with my daughter,
Yeah.
I was still really scared.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that helped me was changing my mindset from things are happening to me to I can make things happen, And part of that has been, I call that developing a survivor mentality.
Hmm.
And for me, that's part of why I'm here, you know? So just thank you so much for having me. And in closing, I want to reiterate that I love my son. So
That's all there is that needs to be said. But thank you so much, Aunt Rihanna.
no, thank you.